Open Heavens on the Go, Saturday, March 25th, 2023. Topic: When God Allows Mountains, Part 1. Memory verse, Proverbs 24:10. If thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small. Bible reading, Daniel 3:1-30. Nebuchadnezzar the king made an image of gold, whose height was 60 cubits, and the breadth thereof 6 cubits. He set it up in the plain of Dura, in the province of Babylon. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king sent to gather together the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces to come to the dedication of the image which Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Then the princes, the governors, the captains, the judges, the treasurers, the counselors, the sheriffs, and all the rulers of the provinces were gathered together unto the dedication of the image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And they stood before the image that Nebuchadnezzar had set up. Then an herald cried out, to you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. And whoso falleth not down and worship shall the same hour be cast into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. Therefore, at that time, when all the people heard the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and all kinds of music, all the people, the nations, and the languages fell down and worshipped the golden image that Nebuchadnezzar the king had set up. Wherefore, at that time, certain Chaldeans came near and accused the Jews. They spake and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, O king, live forever. Thou, O king, hast made a decree that every man that shall hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, shall fall down and worship the golden image. And whoso falleth not down and worshippeth, that he should be cast into the midst of a fiery furnace. There are certain Jews whom thou hast set over the affairs of the province of Babylon, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These men, O king, have not regarded thee. They serve not thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then Nebuchadnezzar, in his rage and fury, commanded to bring Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Then they brought these men before the king. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, Is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made. Well, but if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that God that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our God whom we serve is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. Then was Nebuchadnezzar full of fury, and the form of his visage was changed against Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Therefore he spake and commanded that they should heat the furnace 7 times more than it was wont to be heated. And he commanded the most mighty men that were in his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and to cast them into the burning fiery furnace. Then these men were bound in their coats, their horses, and their hats, and their other garments, and were cast into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Therefore, because the king's commandment was urgent, and the furnace exceeding hot, the flames of the fire slew those men that took up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And these three men, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, fell down bound into the midst of the burning fiery furnace. Then Nebuchadnezzar the king was astonished, and rose up in haste, and spake, and said unto his counselors, Did not we cast three men bound into the midst of the fire? They answered and said unto the king, True, O king. He answered and said, Lo, I see four men loose, walking in the midst of the fire, and they have no hurt. And the form of the fourth is like the Son of God. Then Nebuchadnezzar came near to the mouth of the burning fiery furnace, and spake, and said, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, ye servants of the Most High God, come forth, and come hither. Then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego came forth of the midst of the fire. And the princes, governors, and captains, and the king's counselors, being gathered together, saw these men, upon whose bodies the fire had no power, nor was an hair of their heads singed, neither was their coats changed, nor the smell of fire had passed on them. Then Nebuchadnezzar spake and said, Blessed be the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, who has sent his angel and delivered his servants that trusted in him, and have changed the king's word, and yielded their bodies, that they might not serve nor worship any god except their own God. Therefore, I make a decree that every people, nation, and language which spake anything amiss against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego shall be cut in pieces, and their houses shall be made a dunghill, because there is no other God that can deliver after this sort. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the province of Babylon. The message. While it is true that God can solve all problems, when you go closer to Him, you will realize that once in a while, He allows some mountains, that is, problems, to stand in your way. The good thing, however, is that if He allows the mountain to stand in your way, it is because He knows you can climb it. For example, in Job's case, God only allowed what He knew Job could overcome. 1 Corinthians 10:13 says that God will not permit us to be tempted beyond our capacity, and He will always provide a way of escape as well. Sometimes God allows mountains in the life of His children because he or she is about to be promoted. Before every promotion, there is always an exam that the fellow who is to be promoted must pass. No teacher will give advanced level questions to primary school students in an exam. God will not let you face a trial you cannot overcome. In Daniel 3, after all the horrors of going into the fiery furnace, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were promoted. Job 42:12-16 tells us that at the end of Job's test, his latter end was far superior to his beginning. When God allows mountains to stand in the path of His children, He also gives them the required measure of grace to deal with those mountains. The unfortunate thing is that many times people refuse to use that grace, and they just let the temptation take over their lives. There is always a way of escape, no matter how small. You just have to hold on to it so that you can overcome. This is where you need the fruit of the Spirit called long suffering. Don't look for alternatives to God's simply because you are facing a mountain. Don't commit sin in a bid to get rid of that mountain, because sin will only bring a bigger mountain your way. Hold on to God like Job did. Don't deny Him when you are going through a hard time. Don't faint in the day of adversity. Stand strong. His grace is sufficient for you. 2 Corinthians 12:9. Prayer point. Father, help me never to deny you no matter what comes my way. Father, help me never to deny you no matter what comes my way. Bible reading in 1 year. 1 Samuel 13 to 14. Hymn for today. Amazing Grace. The Open Heavens is written by Pastor E.A. Adeboye, the General Overseer of the Redeemed Christian Church of God. God bless you.